everyone. I'm super delighted to be here. And yep, you can see my screen. So great to follow you, Daniel. I think it's a great pleasure and honor to follow the amazing work that Ushahidi's done. And so I think we'd like to give you a bit more information about Kobotoolbox and what the tool is, what our organization is, and give you a quick glimpse of the tool itself, obviously. So I hope this will be very useful for many of you, especially if you have not yet used Kobo or have not done a lot of survey work in particular. So as the screenshot sort of, as this picture sort of shows here, Kobo is a survey tool. It's used around the world really for collecting information from all kinds of sectors, especially in a social impact, environmental, humanitarian, and development context. But first of all, the organization behind Kobo that is now in its fourth year actually came out of the research sector. So we were created by researchers who really needed to have better tools to collect data in difficult contexts. And so we were first incubated for many years at the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative. And we're now our own nonprofit organization. And we're really proud to work with many, many organizations around the world to create Kobotoolbox and to provide that as a free service. And really our mission, I would say, is to build some reliable, secure tools for as many organizations and users around the world as possible, support them to collect ground truth data, and then, of course, create new innovations to respond to new needs. Kobo, as it exists today, is a very widely used tool in really around the world, all over Latin America, Central America, all over African, Asian context. Really, as you can see from the map, pretty much every corner of the globe, Kobo is used to collect survey data and other kinds of observational data. Last year, this is what these numbers refer to. Last year, we saw data collected in 241 countries or territories by about 14,000 organizations. And those organizations collected on their own, of course, with our tools, about 20 million survey submissions each month on average, just to give you a bit of an idea of the scale. Kobo is open source software, and it's actually built on the shoulders of many giants that have come before us and that we work with alongside today. So the Open Data Kit, XLS Form, many other tools such as Enketo and so on. Of course, Kobo is a Python Django tool built on Android as well. So there's many open source tools that Kobo is built on and that Kobo is very compatible with. And we're really happy to be part of the Digital Public Goods Alliance, one of the tools that I think we've been there since the beginning. So we're really excited to be part of such a great community. What sort of characterizes Kobo as a tool? First of all, it's similar to what you heard from Daniel and Shadi, is we really pride ourselves to be accessible, right? Kobo is first and foremost a free tool. We don't just host the software as a do-it-yourself open source code that you need to install yourself, but it really is a hosted tool that anyone can sign up, create their own account, collect data, and begin using it in survey contexts up to a pretty significant level. So it's very cost effective, even if at some point organizations reach a certain tier where there's costs involved for maintaining and using the tool, it's at a very high level. Of course, organizations all around the world install the source code and run it on their own as well if they have those kinds of technical means. As I mentioned earlier, Kobo was created specifically for difficult to reach contexts. It was mostly in the first years used in Central, East, and West Africa, as well as the Middle East, where for the most part, especially in the early years, internet connectivity was extremely hard to come by. Training enumerators quickly on the ground was extremely difficult. So we needed tools that work offline, that are very robust, that do not need a lot of technical skills to onboard a lot of people for collecting data. So that's extremely important for us and for the many organizations that use Kobo as a result. The third thing, of course, it's user-friendly, right? So it's easy to use, it's easy to get started with, and you don't need a lot of training. And to us, that's always been very important. And at the same time, even though it's easy to use, it is extremely customizable, flexible to do. You can start with a really quick survey that's 10 questions long, and you can go extremely deep and wide with a 1,000-question survey with extremely advanced logic behind the questions and how they relate to each other, or calculations that you might want to use. The platform itself, obviously, today, that's an important thing. It's very scalable, it's very secure. We also are fortunate to have the support and partnership with many large organizations, especially in the humanitarian sector, but increasingly also with several international development banks, particularly the Caribbean Development Bank, African Development Bank, World Bank, and other development partners are very important. Also, environmental organizations and conservancy foundations are important partners for us. And of course, Kobo, by virtue of being a free tool, is used by many, many organizations on the ground, similar to Shady. They don't have to request it, they can just start using it right away. Yeah, and at the end of the day, what's really the reason for us providing this tool is that it is a way of empowering local voices. It is a tool that, by virtue of conducting surveys and making it as easy and scalable as possible, allows organizations to understand the local environment, the local situation, and the attitudes of local communities towards whether it's a humanitarian program or development program or environmental climate change program, and to better inform programs and projects through that kind of data. As I'm just answering questions right away, it is free. So Julie, I'm just gonna live answer some of them if they're easy. It is a free tool, yes. So these are just some of the organizations that we work with. We could list many more, but just to give you an example. We'll see if I talk enough. We won't have time for a demo, but I will go through some slides just to give you an idea of what the tool looks like. So as I said, you can have as many surveys or projects as you want to create. So each thing in this view was a project or a survey. If you need to create your own form, and of course, most of the time that's the case, you start out with a quick form builder that we have that allows you to create as many questions, and there are many, many question types like GPS location and of course, multiple choice text, numbers, dates, all those things that you would expect in a questionnaire. You can restrict the responses based on those fields. You can restrict them based on certain ranges and lots of advanced criteria. But for most users, just to get started, it's easy, it's drag and drop, and you don't need any training. There are ways then for organizations to become more standardized and have established question libraries or indicator libraries where they can define exactly how questions should be named, how they should be translated into many languages, and for them then to have proper high-level data collection across projects and countries. As you can see here, data collection can also involve many, many languages. Of course, for the majority of our users, data is collected in more than one language. Most contexts, just like the webinar today, involve talking to people in more than one language. So the forms, the user interface, everything can be used in many languages. Obviously, once you've collected your data, you can display it in a table format, in a report. You can also have, if you collect GPS locations, that's optional, of course, but if you do collect them, you can display them in different geographic ways. So you can have interactive maps, you can download the geographic data afterwards, and you can use it to perhaps do some monitoring based on severity, like in this case on the screen here, or based on other criteria, whatever is actually important to you. It's a very flexible tool, so you can build your own logic for what you display and how you display it. Okay, so I don't think I've taken the full 12 minutes, Julia. If that's good, I can just give a quick demo of the tool in live in vivo, so it doesn't just look like a slide deck. Is that cool? Yes. But then I won't spend that much time. We have more time for questions. So this is the real tool, not just a slideshow. So I wanted to show you perhaps. Let me open this one. So this is an actual form. In this case, it's got 6,000 submissions, 6,000 surveys that we conducted in Congo, in Eastern DRC, in Central Africa. So as you can see, you can display many columns, because this one I think has about 200 questions. You can also display your data in different languages if that's how you build your form. So I'm switching here from French to Swahili, for example. So you can do that flexibly. If you display your data in a report format, well, yeah, it's just giving you a quick graph, so you can display them in different ways if you want to. All of that can then be printed. And of course, you can download your data in many formats, and you can integrate the data collected with Kobo via the APIs. So basically writing code, or basically a short script, pulling that into other tools like Power BI or Tableau or many other software. So then you can visualize it and explore it and analyze it in many other ways. There's a gallery if you're collecting photos, or there's a way to get videos as well. A new feature that we're just very proud to expand more and more this year is to collect qualitative data. So you can collect open-ended information, open-ended questions, and then transcribe the audio to text, translate it into other languages. You can use AI for the transcription and translation, and also new ways to actually analyze and summarize the information that's coming in from these open-ended qualitative features. So lots I could show you, but of course we're out of time. So thank you so much. Y si quieren, podemos hablar en español también para responder.
Listo, perfecto. Lo que prefieras tú, Tino, pero mil gracias. Hablo en español entonces porque las preguntas están en español y es más fácil. Aquí Daniela tiene una pregunta sobre el manejo de la protección de los datos de las encuestas. ¿Las informaciones son almacenadas en Kobo o están disponibles apenas para el creador de las encuestas? ¿Cómo hace la cuestión de protección de datos?
Yeah, I'm going to respond in English just because I don't know all the vocabulary. I'm sorry, Alfonso. Lo siento. First of all, yes, it's definitely everyone's personal data. So if you collect your own survey, it's your data. No one else gets to use it or see it or access it. So there's no second usage of any data. There's no third-party access. We are a nonprofit, so we're absolutely not reliant on external owners or anything like that. There's no third-party advertising, tracking, or anything. So all the data that you collect in your own project is yours, unless you share it with someone on your team, right? So if you create a project and then share it with 1 or 2 or 5 of your colleagues, they can have access to it. They can edit it if you want. If you need to, and I think that's part of your question, you can then transfer the data into another tool, or you can have it in 2 or 3 different locations simultaneously. And at some point, whenever you want, you could delete it from Kobo because you just needed it for data collection. Or you can keep it in Kobo long-term because you want to use that as your sort of repository for data. That's also fine.
We have here a very nice quote from Jose German saying that Kobo is a very trustworthy and amicable tool. He has used it in the city of Montevideo in Uruguay, collecting more than 50,000 photographs and to analyze physical data, physical structure of the city. So that's a great thing to share as well. William is asking, do you have the open source application on your servers and any user can use it, or is it available and do you have to take care of the installation and hosting? I think both, right?
Yeah, both. I think for the vast majority of users, William, they will use the installation that's on our website, so Kobotoolbox.org. People just create their own account and then get started. The small number of people, honestly, will go through the technical challenges of setting up their own server and hosting their own software. But of course, it's open source software, so you can do whatever you want and make changes to it as you need.
And I think Afonso asked this question before you talked a little bit about it, but I will ask anyway. He wanted to understand if there's any kind of data analysis that is possible to do within Kobo, or if it's better to export the data to a Power BI too and do it all there, or if like a basic data analysis it's possible to do within Kobo.
Yeah, it's definitely both, Alfonso. I think for most users, I mean, it's very easy, as you saw, just clicking through and seeing, okay, are we getting enough data? And we see that often during the beginning stages. All you want to know is, are people collecting data in the field? I just sent 10 people out to collect data. Are they all sending something back? Or is there only data from 8 people? And you should call the other 2. Where is it? Where's the data? Do they have problems with connectivity? Did they lose their phone? Did they take their salary and disappear? Like, those are real issues. And of course, you don't need any Power BI dashboard for that. So I would say the Q&A or basic analysis Kobo is very, very useful. And for many surveys, you don't need anything else. If you want to build like custom dashboards, Power BI and such tools are very, very powerful. Because you can build them just the way you want for the right audiences. If you want the data to be displayed in various ways, and summarize, or perhaps you want to bring in other data or your own image on that kind of stuff, then Power BI is definitely a great tool. And there's many others, Tableau and Google Looker Studio and so on, are all very good platforms.
And Miroslava is asking if you are using Kobotoolbox within Kobo servers, for how long is the data available for the author of the campaign?
There's no limit. So yeah, Miroslava, you can keep the data on the server for as long as you need to. There's no limitation on that. The only limitation, if you go to the website, it will tell you that there's a limit of how much data you can collect each month. So every month, for example, you can collect up to 5,000 interviews or 5,000 survey responses, and then next month another 5,000. So yeah, over the course of the year, that's a lot of data without hitting any limit. If you collect data like photos and videos, you have to make sure that you never go above a gigabyte of storage, for example, but you can remove photos or videos at any point also.
Perfect. And we have one last question. We have time for one last question. So, and I'm translating my mind. Is it possible to do open questions? And if it is there any kind of tools for natural language processing? If not, is it possible to edit? Is it compatible to other natural language processing programs?
Yeah, so this great question, Rosario. We actually, so I mentioned it very quickly at the end, but we have natural language processing available. So you have automatic transcription from audio that uses NLP. You have machine translation that uses NLP. And what we're building right now, what we're working on, is to also use natural language processing for summarizing responses. So it uses large language models to summarize and categorize open-ended responses. And that's, you can have that data already collected with text, but we really recommend using audio, because when people speak, they give a long response like I do. That could be a minute long, could be 2 minutes long. And if you ask people to just write it up, you miss so much nuance. You're at the mercy of how tired is the person typing, how good is their typing on a small phone. So we really recommend using audio as much as possible and doing the transcription and the summarization later on.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Gino.